Tell me, have you ever wanted to be beaten to death by a group of homeless people? Eaten alive by man-eating spiders? Eaten alive by these weird fish people, I don't really know? Or bludgeoned to death by a giant crab 1,000 times bigger than you? No, you don't want any of this? Well, in the world of Kenshi, it's generally either that or a lifetime of slavery. Considering the alternative outcome, I would say that slavery isn't even that bad. However, for most people, you can't put a price on freedom, and that takes us to a man named Lorbin. Lorbin, you see, is a slave of the United Cities. How did he end up like this? Well, he committed the blasphemous crime of just being fucking poor, and then was condemned to a lifetime of slavery, where he would spend his time hitting the same piece of stone for 16 hours a day. Lorbin, however, thought that this living experience was suboptimal, and so he made it all the way here, the border zone, where he began his ambitious life of being a homeless alcoholic. However, eventually, begging for money to fuel his alcohol addiction lost its charm, and Lorbin once again decided that this living experience was suboptimal. And so he decided to change that for good. So what did he do? Well, our man Lorbin here got down to business. He figured that being in a constant malnourished state was not good for his general health, and so he wanted to fix that first. He immediately traveled to the city of Squeen. I'm just gonna go with Squin here, alright? Where he recruited a Shek named Ruka. Something, dishonorable warrior or something, I'm not really sure. Whatever the case, it was time to make money. And the first thing in store for both Lorbin and Ruka was 3 straight days of copper ore mining. Probably not what Ruka had in mind when joining us, but it undeniably puts bread on the table. With the money generated from mining, we recruit more squad mates and expand our operations. Now, with a full stomach and a solid amount of cash, Lorbin's ambitions grew. This copper mining business was only temporary in his grand scheme. What is Lorbin's grand scheme? You see, after he fled the United Cities, he ended up in a region at war. It was between the crayon-eating, knuckle-dragging racists known as the Shek Kingdom and the misogynistic, theocratic, slave-based ethno-state known as the Holy Nation. Lorbin decided to become a marauder on behalf of the Shek Kingdom. He figured that ambushing trade caravans, raiding outposts, and plundering cities would prove to be lucrative. He sided with the Shek Kingdom for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, the Holy Nation was economically more advanced than the Shek, so raiding them would prove to be more profitable. Plus, they have slaves, and as we all know, slavery equals bad. This makes it so that Lorbin has the moral high ground when mercilessly slaughtering the helpless farmers of the Holy Nation. Reason number 2, the Shek Kingdom has muscle mommies, and the Holy Nation does not. The Holy Nation instead has super incels, which frankly just aren't as cool. With Lorbin's party now assembled, it was time to get to work. In their current state, believe it or not, they're not capable of dealing with the paladins of the Holy Nation, so they began to train. This was done by picking fights with other bandits, getting thoroughly beaten to near death, recovering, and doing it all over again. As you can imagine, getting our ass beat isn't very profitable. So Lorbin adapted. He picked fights with bandits, immediately ran towards the nearest outpost, and got his ass beat there. But at least this way the guards would get involved, so that after being beat unconscious, when Lorbin and friends awake, they could loot the bandits and sell their gear. Right as Lorbin thought he was getting somewhat strong, he came across a group of Shek that wouldn't even fight him because they deemed him too weak. Lorbin, however, was not deterred, as he made his way to the leader of the Shek Kingdom. Lorbin wanted to make it official, and join the Shek Kingdom's side in this war. However, the Shek weren't having it. The leader, Asada, refused to even speak to Lorbin, and our henchman, Bayan, told Lorbin that in order to join the Shek Kingdom, he would either have to A, literally win the war against the Holy Nation for them, or B, kill this ominous Bugmaster, whoever that is. Lorbin, believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, he's actually incapable of winning an entire war on his own. So he decided that maybe that they would let him join if he solved all of their internal affairs. So he ignored Bayan and got to work on getting rid of the opposing factions within the Shek Kingdom, hoping that maybe after solving literally every internal problem the Shek Kingdom had, that they would let him join as an ally. Before venturing out, Lorbin and his comrades acquired new armor. First stop, the Band of Bones, a group of Shek who lost their horns and turned to banditry, led by Tora the Fearless. Lorbin located their camp and decided to employ hit-and-run tactics, where he would challenge the Shek patrolling the edge of the camp, decisively lose, recover, and do it all over again. This simultaneously weakened the Band of Bones and strengthened Lorbin's squad, as it was an excellent source of combat experience. At some point, Tora joined her companions in the outskirts of her camp and was defeated. I don't know why I don't have the footage of Tora going down, but I do have the footage of Lorbin taking her in to collect her bounty, plus 10,000. With Tora and the band of bones taken care of, the next target on the list was the Dust King, the leader of the Dust Bandits, and someone who had a hefty bounty of 40,000 cats. The Dust Bandits are like the starving bandits. They roam around the border zone, but the key difference here is that they're not severely malnourished, and therefore pose more of a threat because of that. On Lorbin's way to the Dust King's hideout, he came across a group of slavers. Naturally, he killed them. He then came across a group of ninjas, and you wouldn't believe it, but he killed them as well. Why? Because fuck these weeaboo pricks. Their time will come soon. After the ninjas, Lorbin ran across a roaming squad of Dust Bandits. He killed them as well. This had Lorbin on a bit of a high, as he was now confident that he would be capable of taking down the Dust King. In preparation for the assault on the Dust King's hideout, Lorbin set up camp nearby so he could heal up and get some rest. Lorbin and his squad woke up early and began their assault at 4 in the morning, hitting the Dust King's hideout by surprise. The Dust King quickly rushed out of his tower and engaged Lorbin and his squad. Rane, one of the Shek that we recruited in Squin, held the Dust King's aggro, slang for aggression by the way, while everyone else tried their best to deal with the Dust Bandits. In their duel, Rane eventually fell to the Dust King, and soon after Kang fell. It was safe to say that the situation was not looking good. With time, Ruka eventually fell, and it was suddenly all up to Lorbin. Could Lorbin win this 40v1 and gain aura? While Lorbin was holding it down, the Dust Bandits were hitting each other with friendly fire. With a crossbow bolt literally in Lorbin's head, he continued his last stand against the Dust Bandits. Tragically, a bolt finished off Lorbin, and just like that, everyone was taken captive. Lorbin immediately planned to escape. He started by picking the lock to his cage. This took a long time, and during the process he developed tinnitus. The sound of the Dust Bandits hitting the training dummies is really loud. I mean, just listen to it. Music to my ears. Lorbin picked the lock to his cage and took a sword Kang hid in his backpack. Then tried to pick the lock to Ruka's cage. He was however caught in the process and was forced to fight. Kang was also able to be freed, however he refused to use the giant sword on his back for whatever reason. This went as well as you'd expect. Lorbin was stuffed right back into a cage. Take 2. This time he waited till it was night, broke out of his cage, and stole back the weapons the Dust Bandits had confiscated. He gave the weapons to his squad mates, and so the second jailbreak attempt from Lorbin began. Immediately, there was a lot of green numbers, so we started off strong. Mid-fight, I was notified that the Dust Bandits are only now hostile towards us, and I was left wondering at where and at what point we crossed the line. Ruka during this fight was doing God's work. I mean, look at all those green numbers. The fight initially seemed like it was going well, but eventually the last one standing was Ruka. She ended up dropping a pile of bodies on her own, however this was not enough, and everyone was put back into their cages. Except for Kang, he was let free for whatever reason. Kang comes charging back into the Dust King's tower, and Lorbin tries another attempt at escaping. However, for the third time, they were defeated.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
At Lorbin's fourth attempt, he finally manages to escape the tower with Kang, leaving Ruka and Rane behind. Although Lorbin was unsuccessful in getting out of the Dust King's tower with everyone, he had no intention of leaving Ruka and Rane behind. Lorbin and Kang healed up in preparation for their final assault. Throughout all the attempts at breaking out of the tower, the Dust Bandits' forces were weakened due to a lack of basic medical care. Lorbin and Kang recovered, and at full strength, launched their attack at night. Ruka and Rane broke free from their cages. These guys should really look into better cages, and Lorbin and Kang charged into the tower. They managed to take the tower, and once regrouped, they led a charge outside to take down the remaining bandits. After the bandits fell, the Dust King was surrounded. To the Dust King's credit, he held his ground for quite a while, but finally, with an overhead swing from our queen, Ruka, the Dust King fell. There's probably some lesson to be found about persistency here, as even though Lorbin only found failure, he eventually pulled through. You know, insert some sort of Dark Souls reference about overcoming insurmountable odds or something, but it's probably not that deep. The tower was looted and the prisoners were free. One of the prisoners, some sort of schizophrenic man, decided to join us. And on the way out, another prisoner wanted to join us, and so they did. The more the better. The Dust King was taken to the capital of the Shek Kingdom, where Lorbin thought he was going to collect 30,000 cats like the bounty said. However, he was actually given 35,000 cats. Now the remaining factions to take care of are the Black Dragon Ninjas, the Berserkers, and Kral's Chosen. TLDR, Lorbin took care of them all, and just like that, the internal problems of the Shek kingdom were taken care of. You wouldn't believe it, but the Shek still wouldn't let Lorbin join as an ally. You would think that solving almost literally all of their internal affairs would be enough, but Bayan wasn't lying when he said nothing short of literally winning the war against the Holy Nation or killing this Bugmaster guy would satisfy them. So Lorbin decided that he would take on this Bugmaster bounty for the Shek. However, before pursuing the Bugmaster, Lorbin first needed a consistent way to make money so that his new squad could be kept well fed and well equipped. Lorbin purchased a home in Squin and began to invest into science. Why? To create a cocaine empire with a base of operations here in Squin. But before that can take off, we need advanced technology. Basic research could be achieved through having someone read a bunch of books at a research station. However, more interesting technology like hydroponics, which would allow us to grow coca plants in the city, would require ancient science books and engineering schematics. These ancient science books are rare and required Lorbin to explore the ancient and dangerous ruins scattered throughout the world of Kenshi. In pursuit of these ancient research books, Lorbin came across a mysterious tower in the city of Morn. The barkeep here warned Lorbin that no matter what, do not go into the tower. Obviously, we immediately picked the lock to the tower and charged in, only to find a giant gorilla. Lorbin's squad engaged and quickly found out why I was locked in this tower. When the opportunity presented itself, we fled. We took shelter at a random homeless camp in the city, and when we regained full strength, tried to take on the gorilla again, as 2 squad members were still in the tower. Luckily, the city guard stepped in, and to our surprise, the city guard took down the gorilla with only 2 casualties. I'm not really sure what they were afraid of. Obviously, they were only able to do it because of the hard work Lorbin put in. With that, Lorbin takes the great white gorilla's claws and hide as a trophy. Upon returning to the bar erupts in joy as Lorbin became the great hero that slayed the gorilla. Unfortunately, no ancient science research books were found, and Lorbin moved on to explore more beyond this town. Rumor around the office, there was an ancient research lab on this island all the way down south. On the island, Lorbin came across these hordes of fishermen, who, according to their stats, are not very strong. However, Lorbin quickly learned that their strength lied in their numbers. Even though countless of them were cut down by Lorbin and his squad, their relentless onslaught continued. Lorbin recognized that his party would be overwhelmed and fled the Fishman Island. He was just gonna have to find somewhere else to obtain the secrets of advanced technology. Lorbin decided to head into the Deadlands, a place so inhospitable that organic life cannot be found there. It is a place that constantly has acid rain and gas clouds that will burn and suffocate Lorbin to death. Sadly though, the acid rain does too little damage for it to be a threat, and the gas clouds, well, all that needs is just a gas mask, making this really cool environment a bit of a pushover. Even though the environment does not pose a threat, the robotic spiders within these ancient labs definitely do, but Lorbin was able to deal with them. And just like that, we now have the technology for cocaine manufacturing. With the power of hydroponics, Lorbin could now grow the cocoa plant inside the city of Squin. Once enough cocaine was possessed, Lorbin would take the drugs to Flats Lagoon and sell 50 kilograms of cocaine to a merchant there for a ridiculous amount of money. Now with an endless flow of money, it was time to take on this Bugmaster guy. It wasn't mentioned before, but during the setup of the cocaine lab, in between expeditions to find ancient science books, Lorbin executed multiple raids against the Holy Nation. This funded Lorbin while simultaneously provided Lorbin with the necessary combat experience to take on the Bugmaster. Lorbin made his way to the rumored location of the Bugmaster. It's a location like the Deadlands that has acid rain. There happened to be a camp of mercenaries nearby in this location, so Lorbin decided to hire them to help. This worked out well, as the area was covered in man-eating skin spiders, and the mercenaries served as useful cannon fodder. All Lorbin had to do was conserve his strength while the mercenaries died for us. By the time Lorbin made it to the Bugmaster's tower, none of the mercenaries were left. In the acid rain, Lorbin and his squad stood their ground as they killed the remaining spiders that surrounded the Bugmaster's tower. And there he was, the Bugmaster, standing all alone in this remote area. From his looks, this was just a ripped shirtless man who for whatever reason had a 100,000 cats bounty, the highest bounty that we've seen, and we are a bunch of heavily armed mercenaries. Surely this homeless man stood no chance for us. Upon walking up the stairs, the Bugmaster took notice of our presence and drew his sword. He did not attack first, he simply watched us. And then Lorbin engaged. And let me tell you something, this Bugmaster is no joke. He was dropping nuclear bomb levels of damage every time he hit. If it weren't for Lorbin's armor, I'm sure he would just get one shot. Ruka goes down in one hit, and Kang follows after. It was not even close. This shirtless homeless man just took down 7 mercenaries without even breaking a sweat. I'm starting to see why he has a 100,000 cats bounty. In Lorbin's retreat downstairs, the Bugmaster severed his leg. He also severed the leg of Cat, another squad mate. This encounter with the Bugmaster left 2 people without a leg and nearly killed everyone. Once the Bugmaster returned upstairs, Lorbin woke up to provide urgent medical care to his teammates. Once the remaining non-crippled teammates were healed up, they went back upstairs to challenge the Bugmaster. And even though it resulted in another party wipe, like seeing Jesus Christ fall for the first time, we saw the Bugmaster limp for the first time, showing that as infallible as he seems, he is still human. In one of these attempts, Ruka lost her left arm. That makes 3 limbs total lost to this Bugmaster guy. With defeat after defeat and now 3 crippled squad mates, Lorbin decided to do a full retreat. With this full retreat, Lorbin, Cat, and Ruka all got new robotic limbs so that they could continue to fight. These limbs were obtained from the Deadlands. I forgot to mention that there is a city full of depressed skeletons that live there, and one of the skeletons is a limb specialist. So with the money from selling cocaine, we were able to purchase top-of-the-line robotic limb enhancements. Lorbin made his way back to the Bugmaster, and now, stronger than they have ever been, and they were decisively defeated again. The Bugmaster limped back to his spot, and we all crawled our way downstairs. This happened again and again until one time it finally happened. The Bugmaster slipped up and was finally taken down. In his inventory, he had a bunch of human teeth and a very shiny saber. If the human teeth weren't odd enough, in that chest that he had been standing in front of the whole time were hundreds of human teeth and a map. I'm not sure where he obtained or why he has so many human teeth, but to each their own. Upon escaping the Bugmaster's lair and returning to the capital of the Shek kingdom, the Shek congratulated Lorbin. After turning in the Bugmaster to Bayan, Lorbin received the bounty of 100,000 cats. Not only that, but the Shek finally became Lorbin's ally, and the leader Asada gave Lorbin her daughter Seto to help Lorbin in the conquest against the Holy Nation. Now, the conquest for the Holy Nation officially begins. The cities we need to conquer are Stack, Bad Teeth, and the capital Blister Hill. Truth be told, there are a couple more settlements that we raided, but I'm just going to skip over them. Same with Bad Teeth. All you need to know is that we sacked the city. So that brings us to the city of Stack, which is the residence of the High Inquisitor Seta. He governs both Stack and Bad Teeth, and it was time to take him down. Lorbin begun the raid by killing the paladins around the outskirts of the city. Once they were dealt with, he rushed straight into the barracks. The goal was to establish a foothold in the city and a place to recover before pushing to the throne. Once it was night, Lorbin picked the lock to the throne room and the High Inquisitors rushed outside. As Lorbin was dueling High Inquisitor Seta, Rane dealt the finishing blow to Seta from behind, launching the Inquisitor into the air. Now with Seta helpless, we strip him of his armor and weapons and proceed to escape from Stack. After turning in High Inquisitor Seta, the Shek officially took land from the Holy Nation. The border zone, Stack, and Bad Teeth were now all occupied by the Shek Kingdom. With these territorial gains, it was time to go to the capital and capture the Holy Lord Phoenix himself. Here we are, the capital of the Holy Nation, Blister Hill. Sprinting straight into the city, Lorbin decided to take on the Holy Nation head on. Lorbin's forces engaged the paladins of the Holy Nation in the streets of the outer section of the city. At this point, Lorbin has achieved feng shui. He is in an uninterruptible flow state and mercilessly killing the paladins of the Holy Nation. The streets were painted red in the blood of the righteous. Paladin after paladin fell. Their tenacity was commendable, and Lorbin realized that he would not be able to finish the Holy Nation here. He ordered a retreat. There were simply too many paladins, and at this point, Lorbin's forces were exhausted. The retreat was not easy, and the Holy Lord Phoenix's bodyguard, the Protector of the Flame, pursued Lorbin. Once outside the city, Lorbin turned to face the Protector of the Flame. With significant struggle, the Protector goes down. With the Protector gone, Lorbin was relieved of significant pressure and was able to escape the Holy Nation. Now it was time for the second attack. Lorbin wanted to finish this once and for all. He pushed all the way to the throne room and met the Holy Lord Phoenix. The battle commenced, and through significant struggle, Seto, the daughter of the leader of the Shek Kingdom, delivered the strike that took down the Holy Lord Phoenix. The battle was not over, however, as Lorbin needed to fight his way out of Blister Hill. Lorbin attempted to escape disguised as a Holy Nation paladin. However, this obviously did not work. In escaping the city, Lorbin and Kang were pursued by a bunch of paladins. They had no choice but to kill them. Not everyone was able to make it out of Blister Hill. Multiple of Lorbin's squad mates were captured, and most importantly, Carl, the crab, was butchered and killed. You've probably been wondering this whole time where this Carl guy came from. Basically, there's an area in Kenshi where the people worship the crabs as gods. Lorbin went there and he wanted to buy the blueprint for the crab armor, but the armorsmith called Lorbin crabless. Lorbin then bought a crab thinking that it would be enough to qualify for buying the armor, but it wasn't. Lorbin had to kill the right people before being considered a true crab brother, and that's how he ended up with Carl the crab. After the death of Carl, Lorbin rescued the squad that he left behind. With everyone rescued, Lorbin was finally able to bring the Holy Lord Phoenix to buy-in. With that, Blister Hill was occupied by the Shek, and the Holy Nation has officially fallen. A nation reliant on slavery was officially toppled. All that was left was for Lorbin to go after the nobles of the United Cities that enslaved him, and liberate the slaves of the United Cities.